And here we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. Latest episode of the All Dolphins podcast. Joined again after a long absence. Long time Miami Dolphins reporter, Habib of the Palm Beach Post. Should mention also president of the South Florida chapter of the Football Writers Association of America. All around great guy. Hal, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Cannot complain. And we should lead off. We're going to do a little state of the Dolphins at this stage of free agency. And right before we actually hit the record button, came the news that the Dolphins have agreed to terms with linebacker Willie Gay, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year played for the New Orleans Saints, starting 8 games. Good depth move for the Dolphins, who earlier had re-signed Tyrell Dodson and, of course, had Jordan Brooks from signing last season as an unrestricted free agent. Any particular thoughts on this signing, Hal? Or
I think, like you said, depth move. I like Brooks. I like Dodson. We saw him make 15 tackles in one game last year. So now, you add some depth there. That's fine. I'm kind of still waiting like everybody else, wondering, like defensive line, secondary, what's going on there, Chris Greer?
Yeah, what's your best take on this? Do you anticipate a big splash move before we get to the NFL draft on April 24th?
I think in terms of splash moves, the biggest splash might be Calais Campbell. If they should come to terms there. Although, I don't know, Alan, if you're Calais and you're looking at the landscape here, are you looking at Baltimore or are you looking at Miami?
Yeah. Maryland sounds like kind of inviting at this time of year right now.
Absolutely. I see them as having a much better chance at giving him a shot at a ring, and he deserves it.
Sure, like all good veterans who've never been to the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. Teron Armstead deserves a Super Bowl ring as well.
Yes, he does.
I don't know if he'll get that. I'm kind of thinking he's going to retire. Our good friend Omar Kelly of the Miami Herald kind of took it a step further, kind of was predicting, suggesting that he's already made his decision that he will retire. And then I'm seeing some mock drafts who project left tackle for the Dolphins as if Patrick Paul's not in the picture. And my thought to that is if Teron Armstead indeed retires and Patrick Paul is not the starting left tackle for the Dolphins in 2025, something is massively wrong.
That would almost be an understatement. I mean, I think you and I probably were on the same wavelength, assuming Patrick Paul was the guy. And if he's not, then man, that it's too early to start saying, bust and all of that. That's for sure. You and I have stood next to Patrick Paul. He's a huge human being, very physically imposing. I want to see what he can do. And I don't know that, 3 starts in an NFL career really is an indication of what a guy can do yet. So let's give him a chance. I don't think we need to start raising all kinds of red flags there. But if it turns out that it's anybody but Patrick Paul over the next 2-3 years, then that's a major problem.
Yeah, and it's not me saying this. I'm even just mentioning it because it's been brought up in certain circles on the social media hemisphere. Because to me, again, it boggles the mind that it wouldn't be Patrick Paul as a left tackle if indeed Teron Armstead is not back with the Dolphins in 2025.
Absolutely.
What's your take, feeling, like or dislike, on the addition of Zach Wilson as the backup quarterback?
How's that for a reaction?
Yeah, you kind of just said it all right there. Okay, so
I was hoping for something more. The best thing I can say about him is that he knows what it's like to live under the glare of New York. He knows what it's like to start games and be the guy. Those are things that Miami's previous backups can't say really. Skyler, no. Snoop has started some before he came to Miami, but we saw how that all turned out. I think it comes down to this. If Tua can't go for say 3 or 4 games, how much faith do you have in Zach Wilson to keep this thing on track? And right now, are they appreciably better than they would have been last year, for example? Maybe that much, but are they, maybe a better question is this, are they better off to the tune of what we all expected them to be, given how they prioritized QB2 going into this free agent period? I think we all expected more.
Yeah, for me, is I thought they would go with a veteran who's a safer bet as opposed to a guy who's kind of flamed out in New York, but offers you the hope of a higher ceiling. And doing it at $6 million guaranteed was kind of a little bit weird. I drew a parallel here. I wrote a story on Miami Dolphins on SI.com where you can check out free content, and a lot of it every day, all day. 2006, you were around for this. The Dolphins acquired a former high first-round pick, 4 years removed from his place in the draft, that being Joey Harrington, to back up Dante Culpepper. He wound up starting 11 games. The Dolphins won 5-6 in those games, which is bad, except the overall record was 6-10. So Harrington actually was higher than the curve. And there have been 6 other former first-round pick who started games for the Dolphins as backups. And I did a little story on the history of that. The last one was Teddy Bridgewater, and I'm not going to go through the Teddy Bridgewater thing again. That thing's been beaten to death. But he was good. He just couldn't stay healthy. But again, my thing, I go back to the same thing with Zach Wilson, is there's a higher ceiling and interesting possibilities if the Dolphins can pull out his full potential out of him. But there's also the risk that you're going to get New York Jets Zach Wilson, in which case that's not going to be anywhere near good enough.
Yeah, it'll be on Mike McDaniel. We'll see how much of a magician he is at quarterback with Zach Wilson. I just go back to Marcus Mariota, Jimmy G. Would those have been better ways to go? I don't know. It's just we'll see. I stand to be convinced there. That's all.
Yeah, they're not exactly a ringing endorsement here from Hal Habib.
Sorry.
No, and that's, and then talking to Perk and talking to Dave Hyde, none of us are like really necessarily, shouting from the rooftops what a great movie this is. There's like a major gamble involved there. And was that the best move? We'll find out. Obviously, if he balls out, if Tua gets injured and Zach Wilson balls out, then props to the Dolphins. If he doesn't, they certainly didn't play it safe. That is for sure.
And this was all about insurance. You mentioned the word gamble a second ago, and this was supposed to be the very opposite of that. We were supposed to be out of the gambling mode and into the insurance mode. Give me Earl Morrall, come on. Give me Matt Moore. Chad Pennington started, but give me Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know.
There you go. Call him out of retirement. Get him out of that Amazon Prime boot, although he's very good on there. So I don't know. If so since the answer is very obviously not Zach Wilson, what's your favorite free agent move the Dolphins have made?
My favorite? Well, the one that I keep looking at is, I'm going to butcher his last name, Westbrook Ilkine.
We were almost there. Westbrook Ikine.
Okay. The wide receiver. Hey, Alan, 9 touchdown passes the guy caught last year. 9. That's a nice number, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
For a guy who's going to be your third wide receiver. I like that.
From Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, no less. No offense to either of those gentlemen.
Right. And now, he's got, we assume, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to take some heat off of him. And I like that. I mean, how long have we been looking for this team to not only sign a third wide receiver, but actually get that player on the field catching footballs, which I think is part of the job description?
It can be, yeah.
Yeah, Odell Beckham Jr., Chase Claypool, Robbie Chosen. You could go on and on. There's a long list there.
Yeah, they've gone big name chasing, and it has not necessarily panned out well. The other thing to like about Westbrook Ikine is he's got size and he's a good blocker, and he can contribute on special teams. I'm with you. That's by far my favorite of the free agent moves. You mentioned Tyreek. I got to bring this up. Shouldn't, but I will.
You're going to go there.
I'm going to go there because I see pictures of him on social media, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or wherever. And one day it's got the cast of the big bandage around the left hand. The next day it's around the right hand. It's like, what is that about? I mean, you have surgery on what? You have surgery on the alternate wrists. I mean, my Lord, it's weird. It's just weird.
Well, Alan, you hope that he has, like, how your phone has two cameras and one kind of gives you that reverse image type thing. You hope that he's doing that or shooting into a mirror, or more likely he's trolling us like crazy. He knows that we're looking at that stuff. He knows that we're looking right wrist, left wrist. What the heck's going on? I mean, at first there was this mystery of whether he even had surgery.
Yep.
And then, he had it, but I still want to know, when did he have surgery? Because it seems like he waited like a month after the season. And you know what? If July and August and especially September roll around, and we hear, well, he's still, getting back to 100%, I'm going to be asking questions about, well, what happened to that month in the interim after the season where he waited to have surgery? You got to hope that doesn't come back to bite the Dolphins in the rear.
Yeah, well, Mike McDaniel told us at the combine that he's expected to be ready for the start of training camp. So we'll see.
Yeah, but when I hear those words in March and April, that goes in one ear and out the other. Odell Beckham was supposed to be ready to go too, and then he wasn't. And so many other guys.
I do want to say this. I've said this before, and I was like chided on social media by somebody like, how dare we question Tyreek when he had the big bandage about him having had surgery? Well, again, because Tyreek likes to troll. He said that himself. And then the other part of it is that bandage first surfaced in an Instagram post where his picture in the screen is kind of like what I'm doing right now. Do you see it? Is there any need for me to show you my hands? No, but Tyreek made it a point to go like this a couple of times so we could see the big bandage. If that's not trolling or trying to make a point, portray something you want to portray, I don't know what is. So, speaking of social media, I'm going to go there as well. Gang, it's like, I mean, the shots of Tua in March being at a, I don't know what it is. It's a club. I think Perkins said is the old Shuckers in North Bay Village. Having a good time, maybe having some libations or whatever, and then another one on a boat, and then some fans, not all of them, in the comments going nuts. Again, it's March. Was it really this big a deal? Tell me I'm wrong.
March Madness, Alan.
There you go.
That's what we're talking about. I go back, there were several years ago. Remember when the Dolphins had that golf tournament right around this time of year? I think it was at Turnberry.
Yep.
There was a player, and I couldn't even tell you who it was, who made this great relevation. He lost 5 pounds, and everybody were, oh, he slimmed down, lost 5 pounds. Mm-hmm. Well, these guys, as you know, in July, it's no big deal for them to lose 5 pounds in one practice. Mm-hmm. So their weights can go up and down like crazy. So yeah, it's March. Is it ideal? Maybe not, but he still has plenty of time to get in shape. Is it an indication that he got his bag of loot and is just living off the land? No, not really. It's way too early to say something like that about the guy. Let's see what kind of shape he's in, for training camp. And then that's when it really starts to matter. And if, the Dolphins put so much emphasis on his mobility for last year, if he doesn't have that mobility now, then okay, then it's an issue. Then you can complain. But, I often hesitate when I hear players say, you'll ask them around this time of year, well, what are your plans for the off season? Oh, it's just football, just football. Well, hey, you work hard enough during the season. You do have a right to kind of kick back a little bit in the spring. They've earned that.
No, without question. And I said this on social media. I said, listen, I put as much stock into that at this time of year as I do when we see a video of him either throwing to some wide receivers at a local high school or college, and you see some folks going like, yeah, he's geared in, he's zoned in, this is going to be this breakout year, or look at how much more velocity there is on the ball. It's like those things, again, at this time of year, it doesn't really mean a whole lot.
They're seeing what they want to see.
Correct. And the detractors are going to jump on pictures of him, partying, having a good time, being out with folks, and just, take a dump in this. And it's like, as with everything, it's really, really hard to find the middle. It's always one extreme or the other, and it's kind of aggravating. But such is life in the big city. You've been around a long time. Has anybody been more polarizing than QB1?
As you were talking, the question kept popping up in my mind. It's one I've been asking myself for a while now, is just, why is he so polarizing? Is it the Dolphin fans have gotten so hardened by 7 years of Ryan Tannehill not getting far enough playoff wise? Is that the problem? Is it just the overall frustration of the past 25 years and he's the latest to be under fire? Is it something, is it Tua specifically? Maybe it's any or all of the above.
Yeah, and social media being what it is now, it's different than it was back in the day. Ricky Williams was polarizing to a certain degree, but there wasn't, this much stuff on Twitter or, other social media platforms as there is now. But he was a guy who people had strong opinions on both ways. But it's like, with Tua, it's like one extreme or another. That's like, he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's nowhere near a scrub like some folks would have you believe. So.
It's a good thing, Alan, that the social media wasn't around to rip apart the 1972 Dolphins.
Yeah. Good point. Although it was a little tougher to rip apart. Couple of rule. This is passing along some news. Couple of rule change proposals have been made. I want to get your thoughts on some of those. Tell me what you think. Green Bay Packers are pushing. Pun intended, pushing to eliminate the tush push. Your take. We know your colleague at the Palm Beach Post, Joe Schad, is because he's very, very vocal about it, is very much in favor of that thing disappearing. You?
I thought that proposal was brought by Joe Schad and not by any of the teams.
Co-signed by the Packers.
Oh, co-signed. Okay. I guess my problem there is that it's one of those plays where the outcome is pretty much known by everyone in the stadium. And outside of the old extra point, you can't really think of too many plays where it's not really competitive. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's not a coin flip, that's for sure. So I think I would probably be okay with having seen the last of the tush push or whatever else you want to call
Brotherly
it.
shove.
Yeah, brotherly shove. Yeah.
You make a good point. You know what? You brought up a good point that I've never actually even thought about. I hate it because to me it's like it's Australian rules football or rugby, and if I want to watch that, I'll go ahead and watch Australian rules football. But you make a good point that part of why they moved back the extra point is because it was such a boring play because it was so automatic, and the success rate of the tush push is pretty high. And for Philadelphia Eagles fans, and I have buddies who either cover the Eagles or actually work for the Eagles, sorry, it doesn't change the fact it's a boring play. The other one that's very interesting is this push. This is by the Detroit Lions. You got a thumbs up on this one? You know where I'm going, right? Changing the playoff seeding format to where if you win your division, you are in the playoffs, but you do not get seeded higher than a team that has a better record than you. So you've already given the thumbs up.
Alan, I am really tired of seeing the NFC South winner at 7-9 or now 7-10 hosting a team that has won double-digit games, and they're just getting rewarded for being in the right division in the right year. They're not getting every other home field advantage is determined as a reward for excellence on the field. And up until this point, it's merely a reward for being in the right division. And that drives me crazy. And I actually have done some homework on this one, Alan.
Go for it.
And I found a couple of cases in Dolphin history where their playoff games would have been flipped had this rule been in effect back then.
I did as well. Go ahead.
Well, 1972 is the most glaring example.
Yeah, but that was if you're Hal. But let me interject. That is because at that time the AFC Championship game was awarded on a rotational basis, so it wasn't necessarily.
Yeah, it was rotational, but it was stupid.
Yes, it was. Yes.
For a 14-0 Miami team to go to 11-3 Pittsburgh is ridiculous.
I agree.
At the same time, in 1970, the first Dolphin playoff game was in Oakland, and not only did Miami have a better record, they were 10-4. Oakland was 8-4-2. But here's the real kick in the rear end. The Raiders lost to the Dolphins in the regular season that year, and yet they still hosted that playoff game. And so those are a couple. There were some others that I looked at that 2008 Baltimore and Miami, that would not have changed. But in 1999, there was a game, Miami and Seattle, and you'd have to go and split hairs with the tiebreakers to figure out whether that one would have changed sites or not. So they didn't play in the regular season.
Okay, but here's the thing: is I went further back again, as indicated in the story on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. The Dolphins' last playoff game, that ice box game at Kansas City, had this new rule been in effect, Dolphins would have played at Cleveland. Because the Houston Texans wound up getting the 4 seed despite being, what were they, like 10-7, and they should have been the 6 or 7 seed. They should have been the 6 seed. So it should have been Dolphins at Cleveland that year instead of at Kansas City. And then as well in 2016, when the Dolphins were at Pittsburgh, they should have been at Oakland as well, based on the same thing. And again, it was the Houston Texans who won the AFC South.
Okay. I didn't go that far into. I just went into home or away kind of thing. I didn't break it down by the way you did, but those are good notes there.
Feel free to steal my stuff.
I will steal.
Get me in some place in the story. It's okay. My thing is, I get it, and there's something to be said for rewarding excellence, but you know, life in the NFL is cyclical. Right now, the NFC South sucks. The AFC South sucks. So those teams are going to get a break every year. The NFC East was really bad a couple of years ago. Now it's gotten good again. And these things change over the course of the year. If you're going to devote 2 games each season for each team against each division opponent, then I think there should be more at the end for the division winner. Than just making the playoffs automatically. So even though it completely goes against my competitive belief, and Hal shaking his head, no, I don't like you. You're a loser. I just no. Okay.
Well, you know, you can say it's cyclical, but if you're an 11 or 12 win team having to go on the road, let's say this past January, the fact that it's going to flip around in another year or two, that's no consolation for you. All you know is that you're on the road and you shouldn't be.
Correct at that one point, but but you're looking at the small picture. I'm looking at the big picture. And again, to me, my problem is, again, if we're going to go through it's a strictly best record, then eliminate. Why not eliminate divisions entirely and just have that?
Because that's a schedule in terms of having a rivalry where you play a team home and away every year. That's why you have the division.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't want to lose. I mean, Miami definitely would not want to lose the rivalry they have with Buffalo, New York, and New England. They wouldn't want to lose that.
Well, they certainly don't, because they didn't in 2002, which is why they stayed in the AFC East. As you well know, instead of jumping to the AFC South, where they were invited to join Jacksonville, Houston, and Tennessee.
Yeah, but those games, I mean, those would be snoozers. Yeah.
Yeah, but may have led to more success. Who knows? Well, because who knows? Yeah. We don't know. So I do believe I'm in the vast minority on that thing, but to me, that's the idea. Do you have any thought either way of the proposed rule? This is by the Eagles, of making the overtime rules the same in the regular season as in the playoffs. Because right now in the regular season, first of all, it's 10 minutes. Second of all, is each team is not guaranteed a possession. If the first possession ends in a touchdown, game over. In the playoffs, each team is guaranteed 1 possession, and it's 15 minutes. You carry the way on that one?
Don't have a strong preference. The current overtime rule doesn't really bother me that much. I mean, if you give up a defensive touchdown, you know, hey, you blew it. So, I don't know. Do you still deserve to get the ball? Or, I don't know. It's
see to me, it's like, again, especially because the rules are so skewed for the offense, it's not an equal balance. It's easier for the offense. I don't know if the stats would support my claim here, but I think it's easier to score than to prevent a team from scoring.
Yeah. So I'd be okay if they changed it. I
don't think it's that much more taxing for the players, I believe. Okay, and then the last one, which is an interesting one, also proposed by the Detroit Lions. They want to make defensive holding and illegal contact penalties no longer become an automatic first down. So if it's 3rd and 20 and you get a defensive holding, it becomes 3rd and 15. It doesn't become 1st and 10. Your thoughts on that?
I don't know. That my first inclination when I saw that proposal was that it kind of almost invites guys who might be getting beat to just do one of these and grab the jersey, and all of a sudden it starts to look a little bit like soccer when a guy's about to be clear in on the goalkeeper.
No, yeah, and that's my take as well, is mine, because the initial reaction is like, yeah, that's BS when the team gets a cheap first down like that. But you stop giving an automatic first down, you see how many times the DB is like, let me see what I can get away with, and if they call it, it'll just be 5 yards. Especially on 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 20, you're going to see a lot of DBs trying to get away with the old
Yeah.
You agree? Okay.
Yeah, take a chance. I mean, the worst that happens is you get caught, and you don't give up a first down.
Final question for you, my friend. As
Okay.
we stand right now, about a week after the start of NFL free agency, where do you see the Dolphins fitting into the AFC East picture, and even bigger than that, in the AFC picture?
Oh boy, that's a hell of a question. I are they better than Buffalo? No. Um, New England made a lot of moves. They had a lot of monopoly money to play with, and they used it. I'm not saying they're better than Miami. I'm just saying it's a different team now. So you got that going on. The Jets have made some moves. It's not just Buffalo that they have to worry about right now. So that's one thing. In terms of the AFC, I think that probably all of the upper echelon AFC teams that they should have been concerned about last year are probably about where they, the same level of concern moving forward. And then you add Cincinnati to it, because I think we're going to see the real Cincinnati this year. So, and the Chargers are getting better. The Ravens are going to be really good. They've it's hard for me right now to see this team making the playoffs. Really, I mean, I think they make it. Yeah, will they make it? That's a different story. I don't know. You see them as a playoff team? They have a lot of holes. Look at their defensive line.
Yeah.
Look at their secondary. Those are some serious holes. And are they better off on the offensive line right now than they were last year? We were promised a better offensive line, and are we seeing it? Is James Daniels going to be the big, to the rescue guy? I don't know.
No, I think I'm with you. As it stands right now, it's going to be quite the challenge. Obviously, having two in the lineup for 17 games as opposed to 11 or 10 and a half would help. But to me, they're clearly not in the upper echelon, and there are maybe 4 to 5 teams that right now are clearly ahead of them. And it's, can they squeeze in? And it's going to be the same thing as last year. They were in the fight till the end. Last year was with them, Cincinnati, Denver, and the Chargers. I can certainly seeing that being the case again. And I think New England's a team that could be problematic because of all the moves they made, and having Mike Vrabel as a head coach, because I happen to have a whole lot of respect for him as a head coach. So we shall see how it plays out. We're still a long way away from the start of the regular season, so many other moves can be made. So we're not starting the season right now. So, but we'll see how it goes. That's going to wrap it up. Please like, subscribe, as they say, smash that like button. Please make sure to check out my good friend Hal Habib's fine work at the Palm Beach Post, palmbeachpost.com/sports. I'll get it out eventually.
Put it out, Alan.
Let me try it again. palmbeachpost.com/sports. Is that better? I can even say slash. Thanks, Al, as always. Appreciate it. And everyone, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys later. As I proceed to try to end this podcast right here with the correct button. Here we go.